I'd like to talk to you about a very, very useful model called the organizational life cycle. It's developed by Bob Dick and Tim Dalmau. This model talks about how all organizations go through a natural life cycle in terms of where they're really powerful and they start to degrade, and some eventually decline completely if no interventions are taken. And what this chart talks about is levels of doubt that the people in the organization have about the organization itself. And I'm going to go through this model, and in this presentation I'm also going to show you how you can use this model with a group, a leadership team, or a large cross-section of an organization for that team to actually have a way of talking about their culture of the organization and to look at improvements of the organization. So I'm going to do this in a couple of phases. But first, let's go through the model. So the first level of doubt is called suspended doubt. And suspended doubt is kind of a wonderful place to be, in that people are really not criticizing anything. They're cutting the organization enormous amounts of slack. Things that are happening, but people love the organization as a rule of thumb. They love the leaders. And if there are things that are happening, it's kind of like they're just blind to those things happening. And so if they said everything's wonderful around here, it's a great organization to work with, you know, we're moving forward, it's like a perfect place to be. The next level of doubt that will creep in unless interventions are put into place to keep the organization at that suspended level is called operational doubt. Operational doubt is a little bit more irritation and perhaps a little bit more reality is coming into the picture. And people begin to look at things like policies and procedures, and things are not as efficient. There's irritations about the system itself, and that's what they're talking about. And of course, those would be the kind of interventions that would need to take place to move from operational back to suspended level. The third level of doubt is called ideological doubt. And this is really common, and this is where people are talking about some real angst about what they stand for, why they're working for the organization, and the difference between the walk and the talk of an organization. This is where vision statements and mission statements, a lot of work ends up being done around this, because a lot of people they're feeling a little bit of alienation, and there's a little bit, you know, this is not what we believe. It's not our identity. It's not our ideology that the organization stands for. And unless interventions are taken, the organization in a life cycle will continue down to the level of ethical doubt. Ethical doubt starts to become very serious, and this is where people actually start to feel violated. Their own value systems, their ethics, all of those things. There's no fit for me here in this organization. It actually violates me. And many of the things that the organization stands for, or the way it practices their business, is a violation for me. This becomes very significant. And if not intervened, we go all the way to the bottom, which is called absolute doubt. In the level of absolute doubt, I mean, I don't know if Bob Dick and Tim Dalmau would talk about it in this way, but the way I talk about it is the only kind of people left standing in an organization like this are the ones that are totally into security. They have no other job options. The organization, if it was a non-governmental organization, if it didn't do interventions at this point, it would collapse and fail. In governmental organizations, unfortunately, we have a lot of people still in organizations like this because of the security and so forth. So those are the levels of doubt. Now, interestingly, just as an aside from my purpose today, if we were to draw a line across this level, when organizations are here, these are called, what's necessary are called non-rational interventions. You can't talk people out of these things. People try, but this is where you need to do things like, you know, buy a funeral pot and a casket, and the whole organization goes out. They go out to the funeral service, they load the casket with all the artifacts that represented all the things that they didn't like about the organization, and they bury it, or they put it through a crematoria and they burn up all those things. There's a bunch of kind of non-rational kind of interventions. They don't make sense logically, it's all emotional. These kinds of interventions can be rational. These are where all the processes and conversations will work. Now what I'd like to talk about right now is how you might use this model with an actual team. Now by itself, it is a great model to think through about the cultural analysis of an organization when you're a leader or a team or a consultant performing a diagnosis on an organization. But a team or the whole organization can also use this model to do their own assessment. And the way you would do that is you would fill out the organizational lifestyle inventory. Now that inventory is posted on my website. It can be found under the survey inventory section under free resources. Everybody would fill that inventory out, and it would place each person on their level of doubt. Then all of the people would come in, and you'd have one of these charts posted in front of the group, and they would make their little X or hash mark or whatever about where they actually scored. So you might have, all of these people scoring at certain levels, but there'll be some real consistency when you look at the scoring across a team. And it becomes like this third point that the team can look at objectively and say, wow, it wasn't just me feeling this way. Most of us are experiencing the organization, our culture of our organization in this way. And then the group can begin to convene that conversation of why are we there? What's our specific evidence? How would we like it to be different? What kinds of principles and practices would we begin to put in place to move us from wherever we are to a higher level on this organizational life cycle? So it's a great tool, it's a great inventory, it's also a conversation process that you can utilize. So I hope this overview of the organizational life cycle has been helpful for you. Please check it out on my website, and there's more to share on the website under free resources. There's also, I go into a lot of this on my training program, so you can check out the various trainings on the website as well. So take care. Bye for now.